Well, praise Jesus, everybody. Thank you for joining me on the Lookout Guy podcast. And I am Michael Tobin, your Lookout Guy. Well, today I am going to play a clip for you from a hero in broadcasting. I'm telling you, folks, you can take notes on some of the people that I feature, some of the clips that I feature. I don't waste any time just playing harem, scarum, anybody and anything, just to take time. This guy is somebody who I've been listening to for, I don't know, maybe a year, and I have a list of some pretty quality things that I listen to. In fact, I even did a little series called Things I Listen to, and they get a lot of good hits on my statistics. I mean, I'm amazed at the statistics that I see when I go, once in a while I'll look to see how many downloads and things. And one of the best responses is from that little series. So you can go into my archives, free downloads, and check out the series of Things I Listen to. Check out the titles and the descriptions of, because everything I speak about isn't always in the title, but anyhow, this guy that I'm going to play a clip from, it's going to be from the 15th of April. And it was, wrote it down, I believe it was like 11 days prior. Yeah, 11 days prior to the news that Elon Musk bought Twitter. Finally, even after the board of directors of Twitter tried to do what they call a poison pill thing that will inhibit or prohibit him from being able to take over the company as a major shareholder or whatever. Well, that idea disappeared, and Elon Musk was finally able to secure a deal where he will buy the company outright. And the only caveat is that it must meet shareholder voting. Has to pass shareholder voting. And I predict, just as long as they don't have those, whatever those voting machines were called that determined the last election, Elon Musk is going to win by a landslide. But anyways, this is a crazy story, folks. And John Phillips, he is a host of the John Phillips Show on KABC 790 AM in Los Angeles. The guy is brilliant. So there you go. I'm giving you guys a source of awesome information, and I don't always get a chance to put all the information that I run into on a daily basis because I punch in on a time clock, punch out on the time clock, early morning, early to rise, and sometimes I get home just before dark. So I don't have the energy to go through everything, but it just, like the book of Jeremiah said that your word, O God, was like a fire burning in my bones. And Jeremiah actually quit for a couple of years. And but after a couple of years of not speaking the word of God, he just had to. So there's really no quitting. You can't quit when it comes to the Lord. And media is something that I am very passionate on. You read all these things on social media. Do what you love. Don't give up. Good things come to those who wait. Oh, you're such a hero for doing what. Don't let other people discourage you and stuff. And it's like, well, on social media, it's a crazy thing. It's almost like a manic depressant group of manic depressants, and they're saying and doing all these things, but it's like, I saw this one that says, people are being praised for doing what they're doing except for me because it's me. And it's like, oh man, this guy's in a deep funk. Everybody needs encouragement. So somebody came up with that meme. Everything's a meme. You know what a meme is, right? It's spelled M-E-M-E. A meme is like a political cartoon or a newspaper cartoon. They used to call them political cartoons in the newspapers. An artist will draw a picture, and the picture paints a story, is what it does. So now it's a meme or a meme, however it is that you pronounce it. But that was a pretty interesting meme, and that's kind of how I see social media. A lot of people are posting a lot of encouraging things, but those of us who are just driven to do something, and we can't quit, with or without encouragement, we continue to do it. And it's for one reason, is because we're driven to do something. We're passionate about it. So this guy, John Phillips, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love his style, but you're also gonna appreciate what he has to say. He goes through the story or a description. It's like a primer on the importance of media, newspapers. He goes into how families used to own newspapers, and by now you had to have already heard that Elon Musk did secure that deal. And if you listen to one of my most recent programs, I did one about electric vehicles, and I mentioned something very key, that a number of articles, I'd say at least 2, maybe 3 at the most, mentioned a term, the first, quote, the first EV boom, end quote. The first EV, one of them mentioned that word for word, quote, the first EV boom, and a couple other articles mentioned EV boom, boon, B-O-O-N. And a lot of you people, myself included, were pretty excited that somebody that is libertarian leaning, I don't recall him ever saying, I'm a libertarian, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, nothing like that. But he wants to make Twitter a more open platform without all of the censorship, which all of the sour grapes in society, celebrities, politicians, talking about how Elon Musk is synonymous with Satan now. What are they worried about? But anyways, John Phillips predicted 11 days before the Monday that the news was released that Elon Musk is going to win. Weeks ago, this saga started with Elon Musk wanting to take over the company Twitter in order to revitalize it and reform it in certain ways. So he's got some ideas, and I was one also that believed that if anybody is going to do it, Elon Musk is going to do it, because he's a special guy. Like, he's a special kid. He's brilliant. There's something turning in his head that I like to refer to attorneys, how they win cases. And everybody thinks that there's so many different reasons why a particular case can be won with their descriptions on why a case should be won, but the attorney somehow comes up with some super fantastic statement that nobody knows where that came from, why it makes sense for a case to be won. Well, Elon Musk is one of those kind of guys that he's just got ideas. But I referred to a recent podcast episode within a week ago that referencing the first EV boom. So we all know that Elon Musk is the owner of Tesla, and I'm thinking, wow, he also wanted to take Tesla into a private company, and the SEC charged him for some type of wrongdoings, and that idea had to be put on hold. But if Elon Musk wants to take Tesla private, it will become private if he wants to. So let's keep an eye on that. And my theory is that Elon Musk is buying Twitter because it's going to be another big moneymaker, just like his SpaceX is a big moneymaker, so that he can still continue on being supposedly the richest man in the world, even if Tesla becomes a private company, which would make sense after the first EV boom bursts. Because from my research, I found out that Toyota is coming out with the hydrogen-powered vehicle by 2025. So a lot of us people who do not need or see the use in our lives for having an electric vehicle are holding off on buying an electric vehicle. We'll just stick with gasoline and hope that something feasible comes out with hydrogen-powered vehicles. So that would be a pretty cool thing, because hydrogen could make gasoline go a super long ways. I know a guy who converted his van, 8-cylinder van, to hydrogen. So he filled up the tank with gas, and his hydrogen system, and it hooked up to his engine that he, built. A lot of people can do that. He, from San Diego County to Sacramento area, he went on a hunting trip, and he came back. He drove up, came back, all on one tank of gas. So that's what I'm holding out for, something in those realms. And when Toyota comes out with their hydrogen-powered car, get ready. This EV boom is going to burst for a while, maybe for a little while, who knows? But I believe that Elon Musk is preparing for the end of the first EV boom by having his hands in Twitter. But his motives are certainly noble. So I also have coming up for you, I was gonna read from an article, but I'm not gonna bore you with that. The article is from CNBC. I like CNBC, and I don't like MSNBC. I don't like NBC, CNN, ABC, none of the mainstream media, but CNBC is pretty cool. It's the money channel for NBC. There's a good article, and I'll have that article for you in the description box. And the three main points of the article following the title is Twitter accepts Elon Musk buyout deal. And it's an article from April 25th, which is a Monday. The three main points is Twitter's board accepted billionaire Elon Musk's offer to buy the social media company and take it private, the company confirmed. The announcement ends a weeks-long saga Musk kicked off when he offered to buy the company at $54.20 per share, his best and final. And that's what he got. Number 3, Twitter's board sought to fend off a hostile takeover by adopting a so-called poison pill. So I'm also going to have for you after the John Phillips clip. I don't know, it's probably like a 10, 12 minutes It's 16 minutes and 57 seconds. So you're going to enjoy that. And after that, I have a brand new song from my good friend in Minnesota, Ricky Davis, award-winning indie artist. And by the way, he's up for another Songwriter of the Year, Single of the Year for 2022 with the Independent Singer-Songwriters Association. So he's up for that. If you go to the ISO Awards, I'll have that link also. In the USA category, go ahead and vote for Ricky Davis. And God, now that I mention him, I should mention Tracy Bickford. She's got a whole bunch of them. She's been on my show. Vote for her where you see her name. Vote for Ricky Davis. He's in like three different categories. I'm trying to think of the word. Representative of the Year, Ricky Davis also. Linda Enrico Centeno, another good friend of mine. She is, I think it's representative, not female, but representative of the year. And Ricky Davis is up for another one of those type of a representative. But where you see Linda Enrico Centeno, where you see Ricky Davis, and where you see Tracy Bickford, vote for them. And in the international category, I know even more of them. If you could take these names down. Daniel James Colin Reed. He's in the international category. Also, his band, Save the Notice, are up for at least 4 different awards. And there's another guy, country and western singer from Canada, Rick Snyder, Snider, where you see his name. Go ahead and vote for him. I believe he's got Songwriter of the Year and a Single of the Year. Vote for my friend Ann Videe. So there's Daniel James Colin Reed, Ann Videe in the international category, along with Rick Snyder and Imran Ahmed and his wife Shaista. All 5 of those people. And it seems like I'm Anthony. I can't think of his last name. He's from Ecuador, and he's got 1 category. So where you see Anthony's name, let me find it. Antonio. It's not Anthony, it's Antonio. Vergara. Oh, man. I should have known that. Antonio Vergara. He actually collaborated with Ann Videe also. Ann Videe from Russia. And Antonio Vergara from Ecuador. So vote for those people in the international category in the International Singer-Songwriters Awards. I'll have that link. So stay tuned for Ricky Davis's new song. It's a sobriety song, and I love any kind of sobriety song that I could run into. I really like to check out because I've been sober for a long, long time. I stopped counting. I'm kind of afraid to count, but I've been sober for a long, long time, and more people are becoming sober. But this song is awesome because in this song, Blisters On My Fingers, my friend Ricky Davis talks about his drive for making music and his past. So I don't want to ruin it. So going forward on the Lookout Guy podcast, thank you once again. Coming up, John Phillips, the big primer on a little bit of the history on media, mainstream media, in relation to now Twitter with Elon Musk on the Lookout Guy podcast.
The big story nationwide today is a financial story, and it surrounds billionaire founder of Tesla, Elon Musk, and his attempted purchase of Twitter. Twitter, of course, is one of the biggest social media companies in the United States and globally, and has the power to disseminate or suppress information that they either want you to see or don't want you to see. In recent years, they've gone hog wild with the censorship of people on the right, and they have amplified voices on the left with hopes of pushing their ideological point of view. Elon Musk is an outlier. He is one of these former Silicon Valley titans who doesn't think like everyone else up there. He thinks a little bit outside of the box. That's in part how we got the Tesla. He looks at the cars as they are, and he says, no, we could make them a different way. Here's what I'm going to do. He got into a fight with the state of California. Lorena Gonzalez, who is one of the most charming politicians here in the state of California, told him to F off, and he said, okay, noted, bye-bye. And he moved Tesla from California to Texas. And he has billions and billions and billions of dollars at his fingertips, and he has decided that he's going to get involved in the social media game, so he became the biggest shareholder in Twitter. Now, it's come to my attention that some other group bought more than he did, so now he may not be the primary shareholder, but he, in recent days, attempted to buy the entire company. Twitter's board of directors was not having it either. Twitter's board of directors unanimously adopted a limited duration shareholder rights plan following Tesla CEO Elon Musk's $54.20 per share offer to take the social media giant private. Under the plan, this according to Fox Business, which is referred to in the financial world as a poison pill, shareholders will have the right, or their rights will become exercisable if an entity, person, or group acquires beneficial ownership, which is 15% or more, of Twitter's outstanding common stock in a transaction not approved by the board. In the event that the rights become exercisable, shareholders will be entitled to purchase additional shares of common stock at a discounted rate. This is a defensive mechanism that they are employing to try to prevent Elon Musk from taking over the company. But he's offering them a lot more money than the company is worth, and according to Elon Musk, they have a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders to sell to him. Now, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. And I touched on it briefly yesterday towards the end of the show, but I want to get more into that story because I think these are more similar than different in so many different ways. But back in the day, I forget how many years ago it was, maybe 5-10 years ago, a guy by the name of Rupert Murdoch, the billionaire owner of News Corp. They own the Fox News Channel, they own Fox Business, they own Fox Television, they own all of that. And he attempted to purchase the newspaper, the Wall Street Journal. Rupert Murdoch, at his core, despite the fact that he owns a bunch of different things, is a newspaper guy. His entire philosophy as a businessman is to make as much money as possible wherever you can and use that money to turn around and buy newspapers because he is of the belief that newspapers run the world. Now, his kids have a different philosophy than him. They are enamored with the television and the movie company and the celebrity that is attached to that. They don't share his politics. They are of the belief that if you have a movie company or a television company and that makes you a celebrity, that's where the action is. But that's not where Dad is. Dad thinks the newspapers are the be-all, end-all. And if you think about it, when he got started in the newspaper business, which he comes from a newspaper family in Australia, and his first newspaper was in Adelaide, Australia. Newspapers at one point in time were really the internet before the internet. And I say that because if you think about all the different things that you do on the internet, at one point in time, most of those things were done via the newspaper. You want to know where your stocks are? You want to know what the price of your stocks or your bonds or whatever it is? Right now, you just look on your computer. You look on your phone. The information's there. But prior to your phone and your laptop being available to you, you had to look where? You had to look at the newspaper. The newspaper would have all of that information. You have to sell your refrigerator. There's no eBay. There's no Craigslist. None of those websites where you can get rid of your products that you don't want or need anymore and make money off of it. None of that existed. You wanted to sell your refrigerator, you had to go to the classified sections of the newspaper. You're looking for a hot date for Saturday night. There's no Tinder. There's no Match.com. There's no Bumble. None of that existed. Where did you put an ad to find someone for a romantic time? It was in the classified section of the newspaper. Same thing with sports. ESPN didn't exist back then. You want to know if your team won or lost? You had to go to the newspaper. You wanted gossip on celebrities or news about politics? You couldn't go to the internet. There was no Drudge Report. That was all in the newspaper. So from his point of view, if you owned the newspaper in town, you effectively owned the internet in that particular area. And they were dependent on you for everything. They were dependent on you to sell their refrigerator, to find a date, to find out if their team won or lost, to find out how their stocks are doing. All of that information came through you. You were the gatekeeper. You controlled everything. And based on the political bias of your paper, you could manipulate your audience into thinking one thing or another. Nobody pays attention to newspaper editorials anymore. But in the old days, they did. And if there was a candidate for office that you liked, you could promote them and you could help them. And if there was a candidate for office that you didn't like, you could kneecap them. All of that power rested in the hands of the owner of the newspaper. It's why the families in California that owned the big newspapers were so powerful. There was no one in Los Angeles more powerful than the Chandler family that owned the Los Angeles Times. William Noland, who became a United States Senator in California, and I think it was the 50s, his family owned the Oakland Tribune. The paper was so powerful that it got him a U.S. Senate seat in California. William Randolph Hearst, if you've ever been to the Hearst Castle, he owned newspapers all over the country and had syndicated columns that everyone took, people like Will Rogers. He was a powerful man. All of the titans back in the old days were not the tech people from Silicon Valley. They were the individuals and the families that owned the newspapers. So when you talk about newspapers in recent years or in past years, you're talking about what to that time was the big tech companies and the big social media giants that exist today. So Rupert Murdoch's whole plan of running News Corp was to acquire as many of these newspapers as possible, which gave you the maximum amount of power. And he would take the profits from Fox News and take the profits from his movie companies and take the profits from Fox Television, and he would use that money to reinvest in newspapers so he could grow his empire. Because when you acquire newspapers, you acquire power and influence over populations. Now, it's the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. And it's the individuals that own and companies that own Twitter and all of these other giants, eBay, that control how we conduct our commerce, what political information we get, whether or not we get a date, etc., etc., etc. And so by jumping into that world, What Elon Musk is trying to do is he's trying to become what in the past we would refer to as a newspaper baron. When Rupert Murdoch decided that he wanted to be the biggest newspaper man in the world, he owned a lot of different papers. He owned the New York Post. He owned papers in London. He owned papers in Australia. His first one in the United States was the newspaper in San Antonio, Texas. But when you're talking about big newspapers in the United States, you're talking essentially about two different papers. You're talking about the New York Times, which is owned by the Sulzberger family, still, and you're talking about the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal was owned by the Bancroft family, and the Bancroft family owned that paper for over 100 years. Prior to them, the paper was owned by two men, Dow and Jones, which on Wall Street, it's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It is literally named after them. But their day jobs was owning the Wall Street Journal. Both of them died very young of different things, and the individual that ponied up the money for them was Bancroft. So when they died, he was able to acquire the newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, the most important newspaper in the country, particularly when it comes to anything involving money and finance. And that family owned that paper for over 100 years, and it was a license to mint money. They had no influence at all over the editorial content of the paper. It was church and state. They just wanted the newspaper to produce as much money as possible, so generation after generation after generation of that family could exist without having to work. And as what happens with any dynasty, when you have that much money and that many people living off of the trust, it eventually gets to the point to where factions develop and you're all greedy and you're all drug addicts and you're all degenerates and you all hate one another. But you're addicted to that money the way a heroin addict is addicted to heroin. You need that money coming in because you're veal and you can't produce for yourself. And Rupert Murdoch recognized this. And over time, even though Bancroft, the original, was a conservative and Dow and Jones were conservative, over time, the family became liberal because none of them worked. And they wanted to use their name to get invited to all the high society parties. And they wanted to hobnob with celebrities and artists and singers and everyone else. And they were embarrassed at the editorial slant of the newspaper, but understood that it made the money. And above all else, we're all greedy. And greed trumps virtually all of our other impulses. It's part of the reason why people are willing to sleep with Barbra Streisand. If she wasn't rich and she wasn't a celebrity, how many takers do you think there'd be? I mean, let's face it. At a certain point, all of us are bisexual. And by that, I mean, if you buy us stuff, we'll get real sexual. And Rupert Murdoch understood this dynamic with this dysfunctional family that was greedy and addicted to the money. And he saw that most people thought that newspapers were on the decline and that the family was probably worried that the gravy train wouldn't produce the amount of money that they need so that all of them could live like Ellie Mae Clampett. So there was a certain sense of anxiety that set in to all of the losers who were cashing checks but had Bancroft in their name. And so he went into this dysfunctional family and he offered them, I think it was something very similar to what Elon Musk just offered Twitter, $50-something a share, which at the time was, I don't know, $20 more than what it was worth. And the initial reaction of the family was, we're not selling to the devil. We are not selling to the man who is going to take this paper and turn it into a tabloid and wreck the gold standard reputation that the Wall Street Journal has. No way, no how, the devil can take his money and go to hell. That was the initial attitude that they had. But he was persistent, and he had very smart lawyers, and they played these people like a fiddle. They turned them against one another. They used their own greed against them, and he was extremely persistent. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing until these greedy sons of bitches finally folded and sold the newspaper to Rupert Murdoch. The unthinkable happened. A family of lefties who hates his guts and lived off of that money for generations sold the newspaper to Rupert Murdoch. And now he owns and controls the Wall Street Journal. And by the way, if you're wanting to look into the future, the next newspaper he's going to buy is the New York Times. And even though right now it seems like that'll never happen, you probably would have thought he would never be able to buy the Wall Street Journal, and he did. He is much smarter than they are. But that's the model that Elon Musk is using. Now, the dynamic with Twitter is different. It's not a newspaper the same way that the Wall Street Journal was, and it's not a greedy family with a lot of problems that owns it. It's various shareholders, and you have different power players within the company and outside the company that just happens to own stock in the company. Then you have all of these politicians that are concerned with what the political consequences will be if someone like Elon Musk owns it. However, if you're looking at a dysfunctional organization that has a lot of different voices coming from a lot of different places on one side, and you have the voice of one individual who has been able to change the world and make billions of dollars in the process, my money is on Elon Musk. It may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but I believe Elon Musk at some point will be the owner of Twitter, and that's good news for all of us.
Hi, this is Ricky Davis, award-winning 2020 Male Songwriter of the Year, ISSA. I'm an indie singer-songwriter. I play rhythm, lead, bass guitar. You can hear all my material on Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and all major outlets, and even on this crazy podcast. Because you're tuned in with The Lookout Guy with Michael Tobin.
I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now, you like me.
Alright.
All right, that was a collaboration with my friend Ricky Davis and Imran Ahmed, and it is a tribute to another good friend of a lot of us in the indie world, Don Bouch, genius Don Bouch. You can look him up on social media, Balch, Don Bouch. And so that was a brand new song, Blisters on My Finger. Real good sobriety song for all of us sobriety folks. And there's another song coming out called Time, another collaboration. Be ready for that. I'm thinking by this weekend, and you've probably, I think my show, The Lookout Guy, is the first outlet, if you will, to play this song. So you heard it first by Ricky Davis, Blisters on My Finger, and some of that screaming lead guitar from Imran Ahmed, all the way from Pakistan. He is a indie genius, affiliated with International Singer-Songwriter Awards, and I put the two links for the international and the USA voting pages, so you can vote for those who I mentioned earlier, and I put their names in the box also. But another song coming out by this weekend, you're going to hear it first on the Lookout Guy podcast with moi, Michael Tobin, your Lookout Guy, a song called Time, collaboration, again, with lead guitarist extraordinaire Imran Ahmed from Pakistan, and my good friend Ricky Davis from Minnesota. So stay tuned for that this weekend. I'll think of something to do another episode on. So hope you enjoyed it, that little primer on the history of media, newspapers mainly, and in relation to social media here in the U.S. with Twitter and Elon Musk. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day. And still, this coming up intro, outro music, nobody has guessed what it is. I just can't fathom it. It's almost like trying to think of a word and you think it starts with an M, but it really starts with a W, but your mind is trying to picture what the first letter is. Oh, it was an upside down M, or it starts with an M and you think it starts with a W, and you finally think of it when you're staring at the ceiling going to bed or whatever, and you have that aha moment. But there's a clue right in front of us. Here it is. My intro that I've been playing here and there on the Lookout Guy for this conclusion of this episode.